Good afternoon from Sacred Space at Titania's realm. Welcome to Planet Hellscape in Brisbane, Australia, where it's hot, scathing hot, humidifying hot, boiling hot for 9 months of the year. And then sometimes it gets a little bit cold. But we didn't have a very cold winter in previous 4 or 5 years. Last winter was the coldest I've been for a while, but it was such a relief. I'm looking forward to winter again, which won't happen until what? June, July, August. What is it now? January. Oh well, only 5 more months of hell. And I'm lucky because I'm in the southeast of Queensland, not way up north where it gets even hotter. My beautiful Rati just left, and I've just put the birdie boys outside in the garden. They were letting us both know that they were not happy that they were not outside in the garden, but I held off because it was just so hot. But I decided I've put sunscreen on and they like being outside. I don't think birdies care all that much how hot it is, and I've just given them a bit of a spritz, so they're okay. But I got a fright because the crow was having a bath in the bird bath I supply for them, which I freshened up with water this morning, and he was so happy. And then I looked over and the scrub turkey, who's currently eating grain, was lying on his side, just lying one leg up in the air. I thought he died. Got a bit of a fright. He was that hot. He was just lying down on the grass. But anyway, he lay there for a while, and then he thought, although Mama T's given me food, I might as well have a snack. So he's snacking now. He's a very happy turkey. I think it's a he. I can't see if it's the female. It might be the female. All her tail feathers have been ripped out. You can guess why, can't you? The copulation, the raping of the birdie kind. But it's probably why she was exhausted and just lying on her side. Can't see the other turkeys around. But anyway, he or she is having a good feed. Right, so since we're out in the hot sun of Brisbane, Australia. Did I tell you the time? The time was 12:10 p.m. It's probably about 12:15. No, it'll be 12:13 now. And the date is, I don't know what the date is. Let me see. We're still filming, yes. Thursday, the 15th of January, 2025. I just realised it's the 30th anniversary of me getting strangled in 1995. Oh, it's not. It's 31 years because it's 2026. Well, it's 31 years of surviving. Fucking arseholes, so I've done well, people of Earth. In spite of all my weird, quirky ways and my acopism and my complex PTSD and my being trapped in a hellscape of epic proportions, I'm doing fine. Most of the time. Didn't sleep much last night. Was up all night, so I got about 4 hours sleep. Only after I gave up, got up, made a cup of tea, ate pita bread with hummus, and then once my gut had decided that it was satisfied, it finally let me go to sleep. Hallelujah. But anyway, I was awake to hear from 3 o'clock on. I was awake till about 3 actually. But I was awake to hear the curlews all shrieking about 3:15, 3:30 in the morning, right outside my bedroom window. And it was a very eerie, spooky sound, and there was about 4 or 5 of them all going off at the same time. And it was in the tree line between my neighbour Tim Sar's house and I. It was that close. Why are they doing that, waking us up? Except I wasn't asleep. Neither was he, because I'd had to get up a few times to pee and walk into the kitchen, get a drink of water. I observed his lights were on too. I notice on nights that I don't sleep, he doesn't either, which is a bit weird. Wonder if it's environmental or EMF radiation or what's going on, that my highly intelligent neighbour keeps similar insomniac time frames to me. Yes, it is indeed the female. Oh, darling, well, you've had something to eat. You go and rest now, sweetie pie. She's a young one too, probably only about 1 to 2 years old. She's walking with a bit of a limp. Oh, blessed be, poor little thing. Yeah, anyway, back to what I was talking about my neighbour. He's a very sweet man. He's highly intelligent, and we used to chat quite often, not for some years, but we used to, have the occasional neighbourly chats. Anyway, dawn came just after 4 a.m. I thought, oh, well, I'll get up and I'll greet the sun. It's a good spiritual practice to get up at dawn and eye gaze the rays, the light that's coming as the sun rises above the horizon. And I remember my neighbour saying to me, he comes from India originally, that he gets up at dawn to eye gaze as a general practice too, which is fine, because I'm not normally up at dawn, trust me on that one. Normally the only time I see dawn is if I'm coming home from a big night out of dancing, and I'm still getting home at that time of the hour. Although when I was dancing at the Brooklyn Standard, I was usually home by 2:30 a.m. or 3 a.m. And, if I was buzzed from all the excitement of dancing, I might stay up for another hour or 2 more and see the dawn, but it wasn't usual. But anyway, I thought, well, I'm up. I haven't slept. I'll greet the sun, as I call it. So, fortunately, people of Earth, I put my dressing gown on and went outside. And the light coming over the eastern horizon was so beautiful. It was rose-coloured pink, like that rosé colour. Really pretty, warm, reddish pink. So I took a photo of it, and then I had a feeling that someone was watching me, and I thought, oh, Tanya, because I get paranoid from time to time. Not often, just because you think people are out to get you doesn't necessarily mean you're paranoid. People have lived that way all my life, by the gods. So anyway, I thought, oh, well. So I kind of look over, but he normally smokes, and I usually smell his cigarette smoke. But I just see this head peering from the corner of his back veranda. I'm pretty sure it was him. Could have just been shadows, though. And I just see this head just quietly observing me. And I look down, and my dressing gown's come a little bit open, and I've got this V coming down here. You couldn't see any boobs, but it was like falling open, which is just enough to send me in tropo, people of Earth. So I thought, oh, Jesus, well, I'll have to go inside and try and get to sleep now, won't I? Anyway, but I just thought, in a way, it's kind of intimacy from a distance, because he kind of watches over me a bit from his house. Never speaks to me anymore, just quietly watches. And he must have been probably a bit surprised that I was up all night too in my little house, and that I actually went outside to look at the dawn, because he knows that I'm not normally awake at that hour. So he didn't speak to me, which is probably good, because I probably would have got a hell of a fright, to be honest. Anyway, off I went back to sleep. Managed to fall asleep at that time, 4:30 in the morning. Woke up at 8:30, so I was like, oh well, it is what it is. Actually, no, I think it was 9, because I worked out it was four and a half hours sleep, which is, it's rejuvenating enough. So I've had a busy morning, talking animatedly to my beautiful Rati, and telling her funny anecdotes. She says, "You're so funny." I said, "This is what happens when I don't sleep or I'm sleep deprived." I said, "My brain just goes bing." And I said, "You should have seen me the nights I used to come home from the casino years ago and be out there with my busker friend. It was like a comedy routine, and people would throw her money thinking it was a shtick, and it was actually just me hypomanic from lack of sleep." Anywho, let us continue with chapter 36. Grain. Grain in a circle of leaping, spinning dancers, holding her own and moving among them, loose-limbed and active as a hound whelp on its first hunt. Which would be pretty active, I would think. Grainy swung high onto the shoulders of a blonde-haired youth with eyes that shone like moon discs in the firelight. Grainy laughing, and looking across the open space to her mother, and then not laughing. Grainy clutching the youth's arms as he set her down and letting him kiss her head. Grainy talking to Ephnès, who looked god-dazed, and then Dubornos, who looked as if he had died, only that his body waited for permission to fall, which also used to happen to me when I danced at the casino for 4 or 5 hours. One time my friend from Korea, Joe, came. He used to come late in the night, about 2, 3 a.m. from the high rollers, and he'd hand me a Jack Daniels. He was very lovely to me, that man. He was very sweet on me, but a gentleman, always kind and honouring and sweet. We used to dance wildly at between 3 and 4 he'd come down. If I was still there, still dancing, he'd just silently walk up to me, give me a cheeky grin, hand me a stubby bottle of Jack Daniels and Coke, and I would nod and say, "Thank you very much." Sometimes I would do this to him, because he's from Korea. And I'm a bit multicultural like that. And he would return, the bow and the compliment. And then he was so sweet. And then he would say to me, you're still dancing?" And I say, "Yes, but I'm very tired." And he went, "No, you're okay. We dance." And off we would go. And then one night I looked at him. I went, Joe. He looks at me. He was an acupuncturist by profession. And he looked at me and he said, "What is wrong, Tanya?" I said, "You've killed me, Joe. You're dancing with my ghost." And he laughed and laughed and laughed. And I went, "No, really, I'm a zombie. My body is still moving, but I'm no longer here." And he was like, "Just keep dancing." He was delightful. I should have married that man. He was delightful. Anyway, yes, who looked as if he had died, only that his body waited for permission to fall. I used to call that my fourth or fifth wind, and everyone, I'd say to my fellow dancers, I'd be, look out, look out. What's the matter, Tanya? I said, the fifth wind is coming. What's that, Tanya? The kill switch. I'll go completely berserk. And they were like, yay! And off we would go. The whole floor would be just vibing, man. It was the best times of my life when I was like that. Couldn't do it now, I don't think. I'm too old. But I've thought that before and revivified myself. The only colour about him came from the fox fur on his arm, bright as the firelight. Oh, poor Dubornos. Granny coming to see her, a little taller, a little more of the woman to be and less of the wounded child. Granny, free finally of the bruises and the dark shadows beneath her eyes. Granny, focused and serious, walking across the dancing ground as if it were the great house in highest ceremony, looking as Eramid looked, or Luan MacCalma, or Valerius, when his gods were with him. And so, perhaps, it was not too much to hope that she, too, had found healing and been made whole again. Granny at the red colt's shoulder, with one hand on the exuberant stone and the other on her mother's knee, with her face tilted up, showing horn streaks marked on her forehead in clay over wide sea grey eyes turned copper green in the firelight. Granny, child of her soul, not healed after all, but better, saying, you can't let it stop now. The seed has been set too often. It can't break before it goes to the God, or we are all broken with it, not just Dubornos. Kearney's playing in his toy box, chucking everything out. It was necessary suddenly to come down from the horse. Briaka slid to the ground and hooked one arm over the saddle to hold herself steady after the madness of the night ride. She needed that hold. The world was not as it had been. The beat of the deer drums still pulsed in the land and came up through the soles of her feet. I'm being told off because I forgot to put water in their little water bowl, but I've gave them that big stainless steel bowl to swim in, and Kermie's drunk out of it. He's smart, he realised, well, there's water and I can drink it. But little Beau's not having it. He wants the water out of his little water bowl. He doesn't want to drink out of the bath water. So he might accidentally fall in and have a bath, and that would be an outrage, people would Earth. So he's sitting up there looking at me like this, letting me know. All right. Let me just finish this paragraph. Bo, otherwise I'm going to drive the people of Earth nuts for the sake of cohesion and congruency and collaboration. I'm owned by birds. Her father's blade sang and would not be silent. Kuno Bellin's ring hanging on its thong about her neck pressed into the notch between her collarbones, and she heard the breathless whisper of the sun hound, dry as old leaves, saying, "Daughter." Right, daughter of the gods is going to get a little cockatiel boss his water. Just one moment. My goodness. You make yourself understood in no uncertain terms in body language. Imagine if you could talk, Bo. You'd be bloody dangerous. By all the gods. I'll just give them water out of my water bottle. I think it's just quicker and easier. Good boys, are you having fun playing? Alright, you got drinking water. You got 2 sources of drinking water now. No worries, mate. No whacking forries, mate. Mate. No, I'm not going to teach him to talk strine. Yep, he's drinking straight away. That's what he wanted. He says, "Thank you, Mama T. You're welcome, Bo." You're a very bossy bird, though. It's because you're male, isn't it? But then Charlie could be quite demanding, too. It's not like he didn't have any water, but he just didn't want to drink out of the big bowl. Simples. Right, where were we? Fleetingly she saw the weave of the worlds stretch out strong and unbroken, with Granny at the heart of it. The relief of that was stunning. Kermie's chucking things out of his toy box, and then he chucks it out, and then he turns and looks at me to say, "What do you think of that?" The relief of that was stunning. She held the saddle more tightly that she might not fall. She might have taken the ring off then and given it to her daughter as evidence of that line unbroken. But that a man had come to stand in front of her, painted in red lines from heel to brow, and he had the same eyes as the ancestor dreamer. He reached for her and held her wrist, staying her hand. More kindly than those eyes allowed, he said, "Not yet. There are things you must do before you can relinquish to others the weight of all that you carry. And this daughter may not hold it all. Remember the question you have been asked." Am I getting sunburnt? I look very red, don't I? I have got sunscreen on. Sometimes that makes no blessed difference, though. I hate wearing sunscreen. I think it's more cancerous than the fucking sun. But based on the fact that I'm wearing a halter neck dress and I've got a lot of skin on exposed, I thought I'd better hedge my bets, people of Earth. Better hedge my bets, birdie boys. Sometimes it's a bit of running amok in the hedge. I feel like something more exciting to drink than plain water, but I guess in this heat, plain water's the best for rehydration. Right, remember the question you have been asked. If it comes to it, which will you save, your land or your lineage? That's a hard choice, isn't it? Wow. An elder of the Kornovi could not possibly have heard Venutios. No scout in the world could have come close to them on top of the bare rock. Hairs rose down the length of her spine. Who are you? Suramak Donachive? Donna Chive? Donna, I don't know how to pronounce that. Elder, friend to the Bodicea as she was before and as she is now, holder of the threads to past and future. You would not be here alive without my saying it. It's a chilling thought, isn't it? Someone holding your life in the palm of their hands. She who very spontaneously and impulsively has tried to throw it away, people of Earth. Don't like people having control over my life. Ever. It's mine to do with as I choose, because I've fought for it many times. But it's a beautiful day. A day that if I'd had my way back in 2015, I would not have got to experience. So there is that. And gratitude to the gods, even if it is a little bit grudging at times. And look, I wouldn't have got to meet Kermie and little Bo and have the loveliness of our Tutto Bellissimo garden. I think that's what they were referencing. I can't imagine what else could be very beautiful. Sacred space, Titania's realm, co-created with the gods. It's such a shame that Kermie ripped out his really long tail feathers. He looks kind of stunted now without his long feathers. They were so beautiful. Oh well. Are you fighting, little boys? Are you having little spats? That much she believed to be true. Grain was close and unafraid, crouched down so that their eyes were level, stone pushed between and joined them both. Heart of life, what is it that's broken that must be mended? Her daughter frowned. The circle? The dance? I don't know. Duburnos could tell you. Dubonus was not fit to talk. In his stead, the painted deer elder said, "The horned moon rises. Tonight, my people and yours have danced life into death." Many, many times. Zombie, 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 bee, bee, bee. Babies. Not wise to disrespect the Tanya, even in her preternatural zombie state. Not many have been vomited back to life 16 times. Okay, the 16th was a bit of a stretch, but if it had been my head instead of my arm, it would have been death. Death to the Tanya. It's what some people still crave. Well, you can't always get what you wanted, but you get what you need. And you piss off my ancestors and my own spirit soul complex. There will be consequences. As if we haven't had quite enough consequences with the COVID epoch. So I'm being reminded to forgive and show mercy and compassion. Lighten the fuck up, because this might not be the worst that the globalist elites have in store for us. Worse might be yet to come. So choose life. Choose to be kind. What? You heard me. You have to laugh. And remember, as always, for the sake of one righteous man, Sodom and Gomorrah could have been protected. Only takes one righteous man or woman, people of earth. They're a bit thin on the ground these days, but I know a few. Grateful for that too. Right. The life must be given, or the cycle is broken. Already the weaving is fraying loose. What did Elton John used to sing? There's no sacrifice at all. Little did he know. There's always a price to be paid, even in the good times. It's a heavy burden at times, a heavy price. Who shall live and who shall die? Who by fire and who by water? Who by hunger and who by thirst? Etc., etc., etc. But there, in real terms, there is no actual death, only in each lifetime. Some of us keep being sent back here. I wonder why. To be sent back 16 times in the same incarnation is a little bit unusual, people of Earth. Doesn't make me better than any other human mortal on this planet, but it is a bit concerning. I got a bit concerned after about the 10th time, but oh well. sometimes it just things that make you go, But I'm here for my tutto bellissimo life, people of Earth. It was promised to me. It was promised to me that eventually all that shit show, ghastly horror would just wash out and my beautiful life would begin at long last. Might still happen, people of Earth. Watch the space. You never know what you're going to get in Titania's realm. Who will come and who will go. Who will re-enter my life, who will never re-enter my life again, and what wonderful new souls might come to share community and heart space with me. Something to ponder about, aspire to, look forward to, hope for. What are you doing, little Kermie? You're rubbing your head on the bars of your cage. Okay. Ephes was there, panting but able. He said, "He's telling the truth. We have gone too far to let this go. To break the circle now would bring ruin to more than the Kornovi." I cleaned my fish pond filter and now my arms are sore and ache. It's because I didn't sleep much. Makes me weak in physique but strong in spirit, people of Earth. The mamatee's flying all over this garden, can you tell? Yes. Right. Briaka said, "You could have stopped this before it began. Why did you not?" He was the man named Next Elder of Mona. With all the gravity of that, he said, "I could not have stopped it. I could only have refused to take part. They want Granny, and I am sworn to her side. Where she goes, I go. Where she dances, I dance." She did not have to dance. "I did," Granny said. "Hawk danced. We couldn't leave him to do it alone." The simplicity of a child and all the layers and layers beneath it. Hawk was still dancing after a fashion. The beat of the deer drum still moved him where it had abandoned Ephes and left Dubornos, bereft. He heard his name and was more able to walk than Dubornos. The stag's head crown gave him height above all of the others as he wove through the thong towards them. He carried it well. The dear elder swayed aside to make room for him. He was breathing as hard as a racehorse, but it was the marks on him that mattered more. From a distance, he had seemed painted as the dear men were. Close, the red that marked him was from knife cuts. a dozen or more, a hand's breadth apart, that lined his body as paint lined the elder's. Oddly, they heightened him. He was fit and lean, and his body was perfect. I'm getting messages, but it's about my lawn mowing. If I click on it, I will lose this video, so I'll look at it later, people of Earth. His mind too had grown on Mona. He had lost his arrogance and his fear. Quite plainly, he had danced to the limits of his endurance and beyond it. But he met Briaka's gaze more cleanly than he had ever done. The old pulse of the deer drums swept through them both one last time and was still. I did everything I could to keep your daughter safe, he said. I kept my oath. I know and are doing so still. You know what they ask of you? Yes. Do you accept it? The dear elder flinched, Ethne's sucked hair hissing through his teeth. Granny put out a hand to her mother and took it away again. Hawk regarded her calmly. I would not cling to life if it will bring ruin to all that you have fought for. He had learned too to pick his words, as did the dreamers. Briaka said, but you don't seek to embrace the God in death? No. There was a hush and a keening somewhere that she thought was her father's blade, or possibly the ring, and then found was Dubornos, who stood swaying and making a noise that should only have come from the lands beyond life. The dear elder begged silently, his soul in his eyes. He wet his lips and looked down and then up again, framing words and letting them go. Eventually, baldly, did she mean baldly or boldly? If you do this, we are severed forever from the God. Briaka said, your warriors could kill us all. You would have your sacrifice then. He had considered that clearly. It would be for naught. The one anointed must go willingly or not at all. Hawk is not willing. He was before you came. He could be made so again. Briaka turned. Hawk? His eyes held hers a moment. Then, with as much ceremony as any man might achieve who has danced beyond exhaustion and yet carries the God within, he bent his head and lifted off the stag's full-pointed majesty and held it out to the dear elder. I'm sorry. I understand what it means, but to lie now will not help. I was never willing. I will never be so. Life is too precious to cast aside for such as this. Sikva moved her horse a little closer to Briaka, as she might have done at the start of battle. She said, "Who carries your father's blade is your son, and so is sacrosanct." The blade lay quiet on the back of the saddle. To untie it was a matter of moments, and then to unwrap the shroud of oiled linen. The blade was of day and the power of the sun. The bear on its hilt was cast in bronze and came most to life under the bright light of noon. Even so it shone in the night place of the horned god, drawing in the firelight and spinning it out richer and redder to the far edges of the clearing. In the shocked space that followed, Briaka said, "Then would you, hawk of the Koratani and now of the Iceni, accept the blade of my father in gift this time, not only in trust, knowing that if you accept, you become as my son in all things, as Sigfa is my daughter?" With great gratitude, his soul sparked deep in his eyes. You may have to tell Kunama, though. I would not wish to be responsible for that. I'm being feasted on by little tiny bitey ants, and it's annoying people of it. Very annoying. A little hoarsely, Adoko said, "That much I can do." And so it was settled, and the Boadicea had another son, and this one not of the Sun Hound's lineage, nor of her own father's line. 'Twas a small thing, the giving of the blade, done with no more ceremony than that she passed it from her hands to his, and he accepted, and tested the weight again as if it were new, and became aware of the occasion, and turned and lifted it high to the fire and the dancers beyond it, and let it fall again in silence. In silence. The appalling keening had stopped. Briaka feared that Dubunos might have lost consciousness, or that his body had caught up with his soul and fallen into death. But it seemed that he was still alive and could walk, which was a miracle. Then, as he came closer, was perhaps more a curse. The tall, gaunt singer had been melancholy from his early youth when he had first come to Mona, but this night had taken him far beyond that. Grief was etched in every part of his being, a lifetime of hurt laid bare as he had never shown it before. His eyes were tunnels into other worlds, and each one of them was torment. He looked through Briaka to Sigva, whom he had loved for 10 years without hope of return, and then back again to Briaka, so that she knew before he spoke what he was going to say. I would go willing to the god. No, Dubornos, you can't. She and the dear elder spoke together. Their voices clashed like blades across his head. He looked from one to the other and gained a little colour at the challenge they offered. He touched 2 fingers to the band of tawny vixen pelt on his upper arm. Its warmth fired him. Why not? I have danced under the dark of the moon in the lost time before the horned god sent his daughter to light us. I have set the seed as often as Hawk did. I have drowned in the birthing and come to life again, gasping like a landed salmon. I have found first feet stumbling under the 9-branched hazel. I have known the first run, tasted the first milk, the first sward, the first beech nuts. I have dug for forage under first snow and seen the rain fall to wash it away in spring. I have watched the young bucks fighting at the time of the rowan berries and have fought them in play and in earnest. I have roared as the stag and cracked horns with him and won and fallen in the same breath. I have lived the life in its cycles, times without number, and I have danced nearer to the edge of the precipice each time, knowing what I did. From the first, I have envied Hawk his gift of life to the god, and now I find that he does not wish to give it. I am a singer. I know what it is to speak with the gods. I understand what we need now as well as any man might. I can ask from the roots of my soul for the help that we need to keep the land true to the gods and ourselves true to the land. I offer myself willingly in Hawk's place. To go now in this cause would give me the greatest of all possible joy. He was a singer, trained for half a lifetime in the rhythms and meters of the great house. He knew how to cast his voice to hold an audience, be they in front of the winter fires of a family or the great blazing trenches of the council house on Mona. He knew how to mould words to his purpose, and he did so, bending every part of his skill to it. He had faced the elder and all of the dancers as he spoke. Now, at the last, he, who knew Briaka as well as any man alive, turned and spoke only to her. This is not a final, pointless gesture of self-reproach because I failed to protect Kunamar and then Granny after him. And at each time I did the best I could. I know that, and know that you know it. This is greater than any petty recrimination or guilt. It is my destiny, the pinnacle to which all of my life has pointed. Ermid would understand. She has held me in the lands of the living since the first time I tried to leave, as has my doctor. He was determined that I should not fail in my quest to follow this dream, no matter how hopeless. Sorry, I'm having a Don Quixote moment. To dream the impossible dream. And how does it go? To follow that dream, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far, blah, 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 oh, blah, dee, oh, blah, da. Well, you've got to laugh sometimes. Someone believes in me. Someone. She would not hold me back now. It is the only gift I have ever asked of you, and I do ask it from the core of my soul. She would not let you keep it from me. Briaka was weeping, which was ridiculous, if a testament to his skill. Granny, dry-faced, had slipped a hand into hers and was squeezing as she had done in the days when they first moved east out of Mona. Stone nudged her leg and whined. Sigfa said, "You do yourselves and us great honour." Her voice was thick with care and admiration. Still, she did not love him. Adoka said, "Can it be done? You did not dance in the centre of the circle as Hawk did. You were not marked for the god." "It can be done, and Mona would support it, but not here and not now, and not as it was planned." Ephnès answered before the dear elder could speak. Turning, he pointed east, and they all looked to where the first round edge of the sickle moon had carved its way through the white stone of the crag and was already lighting the clearing. Speaking to the greater crowd, he said, It's too late to begin what the men of the Horned One would have done. But there may be a way that would join the gods of the night with the gods of the day, join the oldest of the gods, older than the Horned One, with the gods of our time. Kind of a mind meld of the deity kind. Something to think about, isn't it? Melding the old gods with those still fresh and wet behind the ears and still pissing in the wind. People are there. But cosmic consciousness is oneness. The young must make way for the old and yield to their wisdom. And they must journey through the cosmos and gain their own wisdom. And so continue the cycle, imparting that wisdom to the ever increasing young. Dubornos, if he is truly willing, could carry the wish of our hearts to the gods in a way that transcends all prayer and dreaming. Such a thing has been done in living memory on Mona, but not often. It would be a very great thing if it could be done here and now, at the time of greatest need in our confrontation with Rome. To those closer, he said, it would be a faster death than was planned for Hawke, and would need to be carried out at full dawn, when the sun shares the sky with the horned moon. There's time between now and then to make ready, if Dubornos truly wishes it. I do. To the painted man in front of her, Briaka said, will you allow this? Sir Mac Donna Chaith, Caith, Donna Caith, Donna. Maeve was with a DH too. Donna Cave. We'll go with the same phonetics. Sir Mac Donna Cave. Am I close and yet so far? All the Gaelic speakers are probably rolling on the floor laughing. But look, at least I try. You know, I can't Google it because I'm on my iPhone, but poor Mama T. Don't turn me into a wicker woman or a sacrifice because I can't pronounce Gaelic like those other dirty motherfuckers thought they could do to me. Sir Mac Donna Cave. Is it K as in Kirk? Donna Cave. Anyway, elder of the horned god and friend to the Boadicea, won't be friends with me after I can't pronounce his name by the gods. closed his eyes and consulted with the God within. Opening them, he spoke in his own tongue to the silent, painted men who had gathered closest. At length he said, "It's possible. We can say no more than that. If the fox man would give himself willingly, then the God will not refuse him." I've got a lovely wind blowing through. It's refreshing. But it should not be done here at the dancing place, on land given only to the God. We will take you to the heathland beyond the river, where the sun and the moon may be seen together without trees in the way. There is time for that, if we move swiftly. I'm really hungry. My stomach's starting to gripe. It's a bloody long chapter too, by the gods. There's no sacrifice, wrong tune, no sacrifice at all. There's been many sacrifices, too many. We surround you in love, psychedelic dreamer. I thank you, angels. Blessed be. They built no fire on the heath. The late sickle moon hung sharp and bright and clear above them, and gave more light than anything made by human hand. Beneath its light, seeding thistles drifted down onto the breeze, and buttercups shone pale as milk. Dubornos led them to the heath and across it. He was a man transformed, faced with death and so release. He had come into himself as a man does who lives his own destiny after years of its denial. He's singing, little handsome boy. Who are you singing to? That awful grinding from the bloody house being built next door. Fuck. I'm so sick of people building houses all around me. Constant noise and stress. It's no wonder I want to get the fuck out of here, but where can I go? Oh, I've just seen where the scrub turkey's sitting. She's hiding in the shade under the elderberry trees. Poor little thing. I should walk up and give her a spritz too. I put a little offering out to the fairy, because I call that the fairy corner of the garden. And I put a little offering out for them yesterday. I can see that something's partaken of it. Right. The deer dancers followed him in a broad procession. They brought their skull drums and their pipes and their God in so far as they were able. Hawk did not take back the antlered stag's pride, nor was it offered to Dubornos in his stead. The night had already moved beyond that. Igraine walked with Balos between Sigfa and Hawk, who had gone from almost dead to almost brother, with a speed that left her uncertain of where she stood. He bore her grandfather's blade in a harness across his back, and that changed everything, only that she did not yet know how. She wanted to ask if he could hear the blade song, but no one spoke in the long, dark trek from the dancing place through the woods and past the river where the horses were left tethered, and out onto the heath where the horned moon hung so bright above. She forgot her question after a while and lost herself in the rhythms of the deer drums that kept her feet moving long after she would have otherwise tried to sleep, and the husky whistle of the hornpipes that drifted back on the thistledown and tugged at her blood so that she had energy enough to run and dance another cycle of life and another after it, if such were needed. The sky was lightening to the east. Granny felt it in the increasing urgency of the drums. She began to walk faster and then to run, except it was not running, but a kind of dancing. Lame Guinevere was at the front with Dubornos. She set up a chant in her deep, hoarse voice that was older in its language and rhythms than the deer chant, more deeply rooted, more unsettling in its challenges. They ran to that new rhythm, hitting the earth with their feet so they sounded like horses crossing the dry earth. After a while, Ephnus began a counterpoint, and others joined him, weaving in and through with the essences of other gods. Men, they crave attention at all times, morning, noon and night, do they not? Pest insecticides. They ran faster then, and faster, until their blood boiled in their hearts, and mist covered their eyes that was not only the morning mist. In it, indistinctly at first, and then more surely, Granny saw the gods run beside them. Nemain led them in her guise as a hare, and then as Eremid, or someone close to her. Briga followed, who was death and life and birth and war, and the lure of the singer's tale of the thrashing salmon under the ninefold hazel. Herne ran with them both, father and brother, lover and son. The horned god who was the deer and the wolf, the hare and the hound, the dove and the hawk, forever part of the cycle of hunter and prey. These three Granny knew and expected. Behind them, around them, came the ones she did not and could not fully name. Lugh of the Sun Spear and Camule, perhaps, who had been the war god of the Trinovantes, who had named Camulodunum in his honour. Belin, who was the sun under S-U-N, who was the sun under a different name for a different people. And Matcha, the mare mother who brought life to the Dunone with her milk and her hides and her yearly birthing of foals. Behind them and around them were the gods of the ancestors, older, wilder gods, whose names they had never heard except in the smoke of the great house fires with their images running on the rafters. The ancestor dreamer was there, and Adakos's she-bear and deer with antlers that reached to entangle the stars, and hounds who bore snakes about them as they ran, and a man-woman figure made of starlight and death-light, and laced with the rising dawn, who was the horizon lifted upright, and was older than all of the rest combined. I want to break out with singing This is the Dawning of the Age of Aquarius, but I don't think that's quite appropriate, people of Earth. But, you know, have to have a little bit of fun before we die, do we not? Oh, what fun we have had. How many deaths we have had. She should have been afraid. She was afraid, but the chant held her and would not let her go, and Belos's face was full of wonder, so that it was hard to imagine him afraid. And Hawk was there, and he too could see what she could see, and his hand brushed her wrist so that she could feel the life in him and hear, very faintly, the song of her grandfather's blade, which was more frightening than all of the rest, and exhilarating, and intoxicating, so that she could run and not be afraid. They stopped. Everything stopped. The dance, the chant, the drums, the pipes, the heart crash of the run, and the mist that came with it. The gods were there, but, excuse me, but less substantial, so that only by looking sideways out of the corner of her eye could Granny still see them, and then only fleetingly. They stood at the edge of a moss where sphagnum lay innocently green, and bog cotton fluffed like dandelion heads, and myrtle scented the air with slated mint, and the very flatness of the land screamed danger. Breathlessly, Belos said, They will do it here. He will die to the earth and the water. Granny, can you see a stone, something about as big as your 2 fists? There will be one close. It would be good if you could find it, not anyone else. She did find it. A smooth, egg-shaped rock cut through with a vein of pale crystal. Belus took it in his hands and lifted it to his ear and said, "Perfect. Keep it for later. You will know when. Now we should be closer." Hawk led them all forward through the crowd. Sigfa followed because these were her brother and sister, and the night was a time to keep together, not because she wanted to be close to Duburnos and his death. Even so, it came to the same thing. Why is that little doggy not facing the front? Why are you a naughty little puppy? Like all my children, they do what the fuck they want, whatever. Well, it is what it is, people are there. Wah, wah wah wee wah. He's nice. Or not so nice, as the case may be. Pretty boy, my handsome boy, what you looking at me like that for? Dead woman walking, Mama T. I wouldn't be too concerned, little Kermie. I've been a dead woman walking for 60 and 3/4 fucking years. He says, "I love you. You're so cute and adorable, even in your gothic darkness." Gotta ride a fine line when you're a shaman. You really do, people are there. It's a fine, fine line between heaven and hell and everything in between. Spirit just yelled out, "You are loved, psychedelic dreamer." I know, in strange and mysterious and quite majestic and magical ways, I am loved. At least by my beautiful Rati and my 2 little birdies today. Sweetness. Little Bo plays up to Rati. Oh, he wasn't talking to me this morning. Then Rati came. I said, "Rati's coming." He said, And then when she came into their room and said, "Hello, birdies," he looked at her, ooh, so excited. He's a real little flirt, that little cockatiel. Gotta watch him, by the gosh. If he were a human man, he'd be dangerous. It's quite delightful though. Even so, it came to the same thing when Hawk stopped. They were with Briaka, who was with Ephnus. who was standing with Duburnos on one side and Gunavar on the other, and the chants were still in them and weaving them together so that they were set apart from the rest, as the gods are from their people. The moon was sharp as a blade. It cut the sky on the edge of its curve. West of it was the absolute black of night. East was subtly paler, blue instead of black, lightening by degrees to the eastern horizon. Ethne said, "We are in time. The night is not yet lost." He stepped back so that Duburnos and Gunavar were together, still breathing fast and hard from the run, still sheened with sweat. He said, "The seed has been set over and over in the chant and the dancing. It should be set in living blood and bone now, so that life comes of death." Where is my progeny? No life has sprung forth from my death. It's a fucking tragedy. And I'm livid. Not with my daughters. Alright, maybe a little bit with my daughters for not listening to me when I begged them not to comply with that COVIDian madness, but you know, their chances of being all that fertile was already greatly diminished given their, Crystal's 40 now. If life should spring forth from my death, then I will be well satisfied with that, people of Earth, but I don't think it's going to happen. And I already died many times, even during their childhood, by the gods. Heavy prices were paid. Heavy, heavy burdens. So let us take delight in the beauty of this day and every day that the gods permit us to enjoy. It's cooling down now. I'm so grateful for that. It was horrendous. It was horrendously hot this morning, and even at lunchtime when I started reading this story. Wasn't it, little Kermie? I'll just show you. What you doing, little Bo? Are you on the swing? Are you a swinger? He likes that swing now. Might have to buy one for his inside cage. He really loves it. It wasn't cheap. It cost me $50, that bloody thing that they've ripped all the mat off. Well, I can buy some more seagrass mat and, replenish it. But he's just sitting there like a sweet little birdie, just meditating on life like the Mamati does. Yes, even the birdies meditate on life from time to time. Right, where were we? It should be set in living blood and bone now, so that life comes of death. If Sigurd had not been there, they might have done it, standing, lost in the god space, and the earthen urgency of the chant, and the need that was clear in them both. But she was, and Dubornos's gaze settled on her even as Ethne spoke. He loved her. He had always loved her, and he was going to die. Igraine was near to him. She read the longing in him first, and then the others. In the space where no one spoke, Sigfa said, "Let it be me." And the gods and the world held their breath. Getting a little bit of a spots of shower on my arms, which is odd because it's big fat white fluffy clouds above our heads. Look how beautiful they are. Fat and pregnant with possibility. So which one's decided to rain on our parade, I wonder? The gods and the world held their breath. Grainey heard a keening such as Dubornos had made earlier and could not find its source, only heard the endless, unstoppable ache and wept for it. What was that? Ah, turkey's eating out of that glass bowl I put the offering in. Probably shouldn't have put it in glass. That was foolish of me, wasn't it? Wow, it's milk and honey. Dubornos did not weep. He looked up at the moon and out to the sun and around to where the shadows of the gods lay on the land. "No, thank you, but no," Sigfa said. "It is willingly offered." There were tears wet on her lashes. Grainey had never seen that. Dubornos shook his head. "I know, thank you." His eyes were ancient. The pain had become so vast it had turned to compassion. But willing is different from a yearning that grows from the heart's roots, and I would not have it otherwise. In any case, he grinned, and they could see the likeness of who he might have been if his life had taken different turns. There is not time for what I would want, and anything less would be too little. He stepped forward and embraced her and pressed dry lips to her cheek and stepped apart again. She stood. Another motherfucker that wants attention. She stood shocked and white in his presence. With a courage that could be tasted, Gunnevor said, "We are back then to what Ethne said. You and I can do this." The moment had gone. Even Grainey could feel that. Dubornos shook his head. "Can I not go as I am? Do the gods need that I leave a seed when what I take is our asking for their help? It was Sir Mac Cave, the dear elder. I know, stop laughing, who said, the time of seed setting is past. What we make here is something new. What the fox man wants, he should have. The gods will not honour the gift of his life otherwise. More than human minds knew him correct. Why does that idiot need to toot his horn every time he moves in and out of the street? It's just insane, people of Earth. Dawn was growing, the night becoming less. They were measurable heartbeats away from the time when the sun would begin to outshine the moon, the day to engulf the night. Ethne said, we should begin. Dubornos, how would you have us? Granny heard Balos draw a breath through his teeth and felt goose flesh rise on her arms. Dubornos said, the threefold death it must be. It was older than the death the dear elders had planned for Hawk, and honoured more gods. Balos let out his breath again in a long, soft hiss. I've got opal mud stuck in the skin between my fingers, even though I've washed my hands thoroughly. The joys of being a jeweller and opal cutting. Perhaps I'll wear gloves, but then it's so hot and sweaty to work with rubber gloves. I hate that. Yeah, it's from the opal. It's not on my right fingers, it's only on my left. Oh. Pretty birdie boys. Pretty handsome birdie boys. My beautiful boys. Been bitten alive by very angry ants, and I'm starting to drift. Let's repeat that again. It was older than the death the dear elders had planned for Hawk, and honoured more gods. Balos let out his breath again in a long, soft hiss. Well done, very well done. He said it quietly. Granny did not think she was meant to hear. Ethnis nodded and ran his tongue across his teeth and said, who should do it? Granny had not thought he might be given that choice. The stone she had found weighed suddenly heavy in her hand, so that she wanted to drop it or throw it away, but could not. His gaze swung to his right, where she stood among the others, and her heart stopped in her chest, then began again crashingly as he smiled for her, and his eyes said, "Goodbye." And his gaze moved on and rested on Sigfa, who turned white as the moon and seemed not to breathe for the long time it took for him to speak his wordless farewells there too, and then passed on to linger more briefly on Hawk and to exchange the odd shared look with Belos's blind gaze, and then the elders and Gunnar, and so it was obvious, because he came to her last, whom he would choose. He did not kneel, although the thought was there, only stepped forward to face the woman who stood a little apart from the rest, and had done so from the beginning, the one who had run just behind him all the way from the dancing ground, who stood there now with her back to the rising sun, gathering all the light of day and night, so that she stood balanced exactly on the borderline of both, and held them both, and was them both, shiningly. With all that he asked and offered free to be read on his face, Dubornos gave the warrior's salute of the Iceni and said, "Briaka, would you do this for me?" She heard him, ouch, ouch, biting me between my toes. The things I do for you, people of Earth, I hope you value, cherish and appreciate it, or at the bare minimum, respect it. It's quite uncomfortable being bitten alive by ants. You can kill people that way, you know. They used to do that in the old days. Slather them in honey or something and put them on an ant mound. I feel like that's what's happening to me, but well, let's not be melodramatic. It's only a few bloody ants every fucking day. It's grating on my nerves. Right, where were we? Things grate on my nerves, you've probably noticed. Idiots tooting horns and smashing down metal and writhing for the Tanya's attention. It's all about sex and death, isn't it? Power and control, predator and prey. Well, they can fuck off. Seriously. I'll have my sex when I choose it, and my death when I choose it too. Mama T has spoken. Right. With all that he asked and offered free to be read on his face, Dubornos gave the warrior's salute of the Iceni. Some wag just yelled out, "How about le petit mort, Mama T?" Le petit mort is the orgasm, the little death. Smart, but no chocolate fish for you. Go to the top of your class, but don't bring your books because you'll be right back. The petit mort will only happen with a man that I am 1000% satisfied absolutely, truly loves me. There's been enough people using and abusing over the decades. Too many. More than I hoped for, anticipated. Evil it was. Defilements and evil. Right. With all that he asked and offered free to be read on his face, Dubornos gave the warrior's salute of the Iceni and said, Briaca, would you do this for me? She heard him speak her name through the soar of the dawn in her head. She saw the radiance of his face and could not understand why she had never thought him beautiful before. More than a man in love, more than a winner of battles, he encompassed peace and the astounding grace of a life lived to its utmost. She matched his salute and knew that if the dear elders had seen him thus, they would never have chosen Hawk to carry their plea to the gods. More gods than only the horned one of forest and night stood around them, so that the air was pregnant with their waiting. I closed my eyes and I was shown a tiny, tiny seed. It actually looked like a hemp seed, if the truth be known. Wow, it's been a long time since I've partaken of the herb. A long past time actually, probably could do with some to quell my anxiety. CBD oil. They even tormented me with withholding that because it was so expensive, and then every time I tried to get it, it was out of stock. The motherfuckers. Well, anyway, I've held my mental health together without any crutches or accoutrements, people of Earth. Now for 9, almost, yes it is indeed, almost 10 years in June. I've done well, supported by my psychiatrist, but I've done very well to keep my head when all about me were losing theirs and blaming it on me, because they're piss weak, ineffectual, useless, worthless motherfuckers. Took some doing to keep my head, by the way. I'm grateful that I'm a student of philosophy and magic and of great art and literature, and I keep my mind honed like a sharply whetted blade. And wisdom comes in all forms. Sometimes just watching a little bird preening his grey feathers and another one watching me with great interest. You've fallen in love with your mama tea, haven't you, birdie boys? I can tell. They like me now. I was an acquired taste, but when you love me, you love me. lorikeets are here, but they're eating the berries on the umbrella tree, so they're not. I don't need to rush food out because they're quite happy with what they've got. But they'll let me know if they want food. They always do. They're not shy. The pressure of that and the rising crescendo of the dawn as of a storm that comes to breaking filled her head and made it hard to think. Don't think. Dubornos was with her, close as a shield mate in battle, a partner in the ultimate dance. Only act, Briaca. It is not for us to think now. Efnis was there and Gunnevor, and the beautiful gold-haired blind youth from Mona, so that she was caught in an arc of dreamers. Then Granny stepped amongst them, her face smooth in its seriousness. She carried a stone the shape and size of an eagle's egg between her two hands and offered it up. Briaca could not move. Dubornos took it. Thank you. That's perfect. He was moon blind, his eyes wide and black. He found Briaca's hands by feel and pressed the cold stone into it. That is the first gift of your daughter. You need a cord or a thong for the second. She had one round her neck bearing the sun hound's ring. She waited for someone amongst the hundreds to come forward with something better, but they were all naked and had nothing to offer. The ring fitted her. She had not expected that. She untied the two ends of the thong and wrapped the whole round her left hand. Grain's rock lay cool and heavy in her right. The dawn roared as a storm near breaking. The horned moon sang a soft, lofting note. Somewhere in the balance between these two was a gap, a gateway, when the light of each was even on the earth, when night was perfectly matched by day. Though through such a gateway, a man might step who had the need and the desire, who was clearly focused in his intent to greet the gods, and they open in their welcome, forewarned of his coming. In the language of their ancestors, old as the stone, Dubornos said, Briaca, it must be now, or we have lost the time. Others sang it, who were not human. The voices converged and made a space of silence in which, blessedly, it was possible to think, and so, finally, to act. They stood on the edge of the bog. Briaca held Granny's stone in one hand. Dubornos placed the thong round his own neck. The moon held them all night, all power of the dark and the unseen and the unspoken. Then the dawn moved on, and the rush of its beginning of all beginnings, of new day and new life and new hope, carried them to the place where day and night, beginning and ending, life and death were exactly even, and they were needed, one stepping into life, one into death, to keep that balance. "Hold me," he said, and she held him. He was naked, but for the tab of Vixen's fur around his upper arm. She felt the brush of it between her breasts, damp with his sweat and hers. She breathed in the smell of his hair, his skin, his breath. She felt the drumming of his heart, far steadier than her own, his pulse leaping as the deer leaps, as the salmon, from one heartbeat to the next, the urgency of it, the joy. She felt the surety of his intent, the sudden, certain settling into focus, and heard him. "Briaka, now, please." With the stone, she broke his head. The egg fitted the curve of her palm. Its weight cracked open his skull. His spirit broke free of his body. He was heavier in her arms. With the cord at his neck, she cut off his air that his breathing might stop, as it had once started when the cord was cut from his mother. Last, she lowered him with all care, face down into the bog, that he might return to the water whence he came, and the embrace of the earth beneath it. To her left, the dawn, so long delayed, soared into being. "Thank you." His soul spoke from beyond earth and water. He shone. His eyes were the moon and the sun. Peace hung about him like a cloak, and the certainty of where he must go. Already he was moving, backing away from her on the shining path with the new sun made for him. He said, "I know what we need. With all my soul, I will ask for it." She could not speak. Her throat closed over the words, and the air as if a second chord had been hers. He said, "Don't grieve. It was the best of deaths. The gods approved it." She felt that. The pressure of waiting, of watching was gone, and in its place was a quiet gratitude. The air weighed less heavily on her skin. The gateway she had seen between the dawn and the night lay open. Briga was there, and Nemain, and the other older gods. She saw the ancestor dreamer and the sun hound woven together, and a peace fell into place in her soul that made sense of them both and herself. What had become of Duburnos said, I should go. Yes. Still facing her, he backed away, faster. A river came where there had been none, and 9 stepping stones across it. 9-fold hazels drooped to the running water. A crow sat on each branch. A stag waited, full pride at the water's edge. It raised... I've just realised what that means. Hello. It raised its head and bellowed. Duburnos turned and began to run. She had seen so many men and women fall on the battlefield and wander lost after. Never had she seen one pass without help to the river and across it. She stood a long time watching after he had gone. Mother, she thought it might be Grain. It was Hawk naming her mother for the first time. Grain was with him and Sigfa on his other side. She had 4 children where before there had been but 3. Another one added to her lineage, another to help preserve the land. It was easier to think like that than to weigh one more in the balance of Venustios's question. Would you like to eat? The smell of roasting deer sighed through the lightness of the moss and the bog myrtle and the blood from Duburnos's head. She was crouching beside him still, locked in place. Her hands were on his body, which was cold. She had thought she was standing. She stood now. Her knees cracked and were slow to unbend. Duburnos lay face down as she had laid him. The fox fur on his arm was black with the water. His hair was the same colour. Since his boyhood it had always been thin. It seemed thicker now, floating around his head to weave into the moss. Mother, this time Granny said it. No. Actually, yes, I would like to eat. Thank you. They brought her food and she ate and came slowly back to the morning. Kermie's just chewed the last of the seagrass mat and tossed it on the floor, and now he's looking at it. Yes, you did that, my boy. You did that all by yourself. Funny guy. Honey, birdie boy. What are you going to destroy now? He'll start chewing the little chunks of wood on that swing now. Okay, little boy. Somebody's watching us, he's telling me. So what else is new? They brought her food and she ate and came slowly back to the morning. The sun was far higher than it had been, the moon a pale ghosted sickle already dropping down to the west. She sat on a rock and let the sun warm her skin and tried to come away from the sense of him stepping over the last stone into nowhere. A young man came to sit by her with striking blonde hair and eyes that did not focus on her face. She remembered him in the dance, but not what he had done. He said, "I'm Belus, once of the Belgae. Your brother Valerius, who was Ban, brought me from Gaul and made of me a dreamer on Mona. It was I who called your daughter to the island, and I return her now. The elder Luan MacCalma believes her to be the wild peace of the warrior's dance. He sends her back with his wish that you and she find healing together." His gaze sharpened disconcertingly. "Last night I thought you healed. And now? Now? You have passed beyond that. Can you see where you must go?" She remembered a number of the things Valerius had told her about this young man, and saw the things that he had not. She said, "Not clearly, never that. Only that we must be where the legions are, and that they are moving south. They are our bane. Their destruction is our salvation, or not, if we fail. Whatever happens can happen in their company only." Surmak Donakaev. Getting better, aren't I? I think I'm getting better at that. Had help from the spirits. Sir Mac Donakaev was near. Ouch. Eating meat from a rib. He had aged in the night. His eyes searched her face. Ardokos could take you, but he might lose a day in finding their trail. My scouts have been watching the legion's progress and those who hunt them. A number of youths gathered behind him who had not been present in the night. They wore knife belts where their peers were naked, and clay paint was smeared on their faces and in their hair, making them things of the soil. He said, "If you will take our horses and your own, you could reach them by nightfall. Your son and the warrior of Mona have brought 1,000 spears and are tracking them close behind. They will attack soon, before you can get there. They are outnumbered, but they hope to use surprise, as it was used before." I think they will not succeed. The dark thread in the weft took shape and form and size. Under the sun the day felt cold. She sent a prayer to Dubornos and felt him gather it close as she might gather a child. She said, "Then if your scouts can take us, we will ride whatever you have to offer." And thus concludes chapter 36. Tomorrow we will continue reading chapter 37, which from what I can tell is also a fairly long chapter. But we're forging ahead with this magnificent story. I feel like I'm living 1,000 lives in 1,000 different ways, but I'm like that, people of Earth. I'm a storyteller and a shaman. In this case, just reading stories, sometimes sharing my own as I feel inspired or see fit. And tuta bellissimo, people of Earth. Everything is very, very beautiful. Bye for now. Have a gorgeous afternoon, morning, evening, wherever you are in the space-time continuum. And remember, as always, to live your best life and to never ever let the bastards grind you, me, us down. Love is the law, love under will. Be well and prosper. Be good and kind to each other. And rejoice in all that is, was, and ever shall be. Bye for now.